to the meeting right now. So I'm not quite sure. I've been enjoying following my breathing, as I hope you all are as well. Is this better? Tell me. Okay. The sound better? No? Okay. Somebody, please don't feel shy to give a hand signal if for some reason it's too low or too loud. I'm happy. I have the volume right here so I can adjust. Well, I'm so happy to see everyone. This is the everyone's in the Americas on this call. Okay. So maybe we can just take a moment to come back to our body, come back to our breath. You can keep your eyes open or closed, and just you don't need to focus on any particular object. Just with your mindfulness, be aware of your breathing coming in and out. Yeah, and just completely take refuge in your breath. You don't have to have any idea, any concept, any plans, any worries. Just be fully present for your in-breath and your out-breath. And I'll invite 3 sounds of the bell. So we can just let the bell resonate and let its sound penetrate deeply in every cell of our body, inviting us back to our true home. So dear respected teacher, dear noble community of teachers, welcome to our Wake Up Schools international gathering. This was planned about 6 months ago. We're really seeing that the Wake Up Schools community is growing, and many of us have been involved in training in the US and in Europe, and as well as in Asia. And so we wanted to have a chance to bring everyone together and try to just gather the collective energy of practice and insight from all of you. And so that's in a conversation with a few of us. I think it was in August, September of last year. We set this date this weekend just to be together, and it's many things are going on in the world, and it's a great blessing that we have this space to come together. I feel the most important thing always when there's something very unsettling happening in our world, something violent, that it's so important that we come together and communicate, that we learn how to express the fear and anxiety in our heart. And as teachers, we're very aware that what we say, what we do, has a real effect on the world. It has a real effect on the lives of children, on the lives of our students, also on the lives of our colleagues and friends. And this has been a central part of how Plum Village has approached mindfulness in the schools. It's always looking at the whole picture and seeing that we are part of a continuation body, and our teachers, our parents have transmitted to us the best they could. Sometimes that usually, actually always, that includes suffering and unskillfulness. And we try our best as teachers to learn how to transform our suffering so that we can offer the best to our students and give them, open the path for them so they can know how to take refuge when things in life get overwhelming and they don't know what to do. So this is a just short orientation, just to kind of bring us into the flow. We've had an orientation for the teachers in the Asian time zones, and there's been another orientation for our friends in Europe and the UK, and now we are, I think, the last orientation, and we'll just have a short sharing, because I know some of us are experienced in the practice and some of us are fairly new. So I just want to cover the basic practices and how we can practice in the space where we are at home or wherever we might be, because it's also brings interesting elements when we're practicing online, and we have the screen as a linking us, but also as a kind of mirror. So could I just ask if people, how many of us have been on a retreat, a Plum Village style retreat before? Can you just raise your hand? Okay, and for how many of us is this the first time that we're doing anything of this? Okay, a number of you. Good. Well, welcome. And I'm going to take a few polls just to get... we have so many, so I'm not sure we can go around in this time, but I'd like to know, how many of you teach young children, so like elementary level? Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. How many of you teach in this like secondary level? Okay. Wonderful. And how many of you are teaching at the college or university level? Okay, a few of you. And how many of you teach adult or other, like psychotherapists? Yeah. Okay, a few. All right, so it's quite a mix. That's wonderful. So in our practice, we start with coming back to the breath. And we always have our breath when we're born, and throughout our lives it is a thread that is constantly there. And whenever I feel I don't know what to do, I come back to my breathing. And I just give all my attention to the breath, and I find it helps me to relax, just get out of any kind of planning or judging that I might be doing in my mind, which can be creating a lot of fear and anxiety. And I can, following the breathing and being mindful of the breath, I can just establish myself right in my body again. We have this massive cerebral cortex, which is very good at planning. Our ancestors learned how to plan. Sometimes when they're hunting, they could coordinate their movements in ways that were unprecedented. And if we're not careful, that planning mind can just take over, and we lose any sense of what's going on in the present moment. We're so caught up in our plans, what we want to do in our lives. And we may think that that thing we want to do is going to bring us happiness, but it's not sure. And oftentimes when we get it, we find that we're not happier than we were before. Or if we're happy, it's just for a little while, and then we're on to planning something else. And as teachers, we know how we make plans for the classroom, we make for the curriculum, we have our family plans, we have our life plans. And if we're not careful, then those plans take over our lives, and we can no longer enjoy the present moment. We're always just getting to the next thing that's part of our plan. So this is something the Buddha recognized, and many ancestral teachers, they saw that they were missing their life, and suffering was still there, and yet they're just going from one thing to the next, hoping that somehow that next thing was going to give them freedom from suffering. And then our root teacher, the Buddha, he had this insight that if he wanted to really transform suffering into happiness, he needed to let go of all that planning, that kind of cogitation just constantly going on, like a bunch of like it's almost like bubbles coming up in our consciousness, and we're constantly just popping one bubble, and then another bubble manifests, and another, and so he learned how to train himself to not get caught up in or lost, carried away by all this thinking, and he did it by coming back to his breathing. So that is the fundamental practice that we'll do throughout this weekend. And I encourage you, whether you're listening to a talk, whether you're participating in a circle sharing, whether you're part of a workshop, whether you're practicing on your own, if you don't know what to do, come back to your breathing. Let go of whatever plan, whatever worry you might have in your heart. Know that by really establishing yourself in your breathing, you're taking care of your body and your mind at a very profound level. And taking care of your body and mind means you're able to help also take care of others. If we're not able to take care of ourselves, it's not certain we'll be able to help or take care of others, because we'll just inflict on them our same inability to care. So meditation practice always starts with taking care of ourselves. And as teachers, we know that if we don't take care of ourselves, we will burn out. We will lose our health, we will lose our clarity, and we'll lose our aspiration to help others wake up. And
system has lost power. Person holds power button for more than 2 seconds.
I think somebody is is coming on. So maybe we can practice to come back to our breathing again. And this time we just become aware of our body as well. So the breath is intertwined with the body. It's not separate. We say it inter-is. And the breath is also part of the air around us. So by the breath coming in through our nostrils, through our mouth, filling our lungs, it is becoming part of our body. The oxygen going into our bloodstream, bringing combustion, the possibility of combustion in our cells so we can get energy along with the glucose and energy from food we've eaten. And as we breathe out, then we expel the carbon dioxide and other gases that, in our lungs. So we are in a constant ebb and flow with the atmosphere around us, and that atmosphere is becoming part of our body. So you can, as you follow the breathing, letting go of any thinking, any worries, you can be aware of this interbeing nature of the breath with what is outside and what is inside. There's no separation. And I'll again invite the sound of the bell. The bell is a friend, we say. We don't try to teach it like a tool, look at it as a tool or an instrument, but it is something that is helping us, reminding us to come back to whatever we're doing in the present moment. So that's our breath. And throughout the retreat, we'll use the bell. We say we invite the bell to sound so that it can remind us all to reestablish ourselves in the present moment in our breathing. And we say invite, not hit the bell, because we want to take care of the bell. With it's not just a tool to be used or abused. And this is I share in that way because when we share with kids, it helps them to really create a sense of respect without talking too much about sacred things or ritual or anything. But when we talk about the bell as a friend, then they look at it differently. I don't want to hit my friend. And they can see it as, and start to transform the habit of seeing what we might call inert material things as non-living, treating all things with respect. So we can just come back to the breathing and get in touch with this interbeing nature of the breath. And when we breathe, we can smile. We don't have to be too serious. Actually, joy is central to our practice. For me, when I started meditating about 20 years ago, I could not believe that just being aware of my breath, I generated joy in my body and mind. I cannot express how much freedom I felt with that. Letting go of my planning, my worries, just totally being there for the breath and what was going on in the present moment. It brought me so much joy. And that indicated that I was actually creating stress. I was stimulating my hormonal system and cortisone going into my muscles by my worrying, my agitation, my anxiety. And by just letting go of all that, just coming back to my breathing, I could experience joy. Like, wow, the joy is joy to be alive. And we need to remind ourselves and remind our students that it's just a joy, it's a wonder, it's such a miracle to be alive. When all of us have had some time as when we were a child when it seemed like we were just so happy. Maybe it was a sunny day. For me, it's a sunny day at my house that I grew up at. It was near a forest by a river, and there were just these moments in my memory that were just sitting under a tree, just not doing anything in particular, but actually I didn't feel any fear, any worry, any anxiety. I was just fully with that beautiful summer day. So meditation is learning how to take care of our body and mind, so that that beautiful sunny day without worry, without fear, can happen wherever we go, whenever. It means we can generate a feeling of joy wherever we are, whenever. So we're not carried away by our worrying. And that doesn't mean that we are not responsible, we're not paying attention to others, we're not taking care of our responsibilities. It actually means that we're in a much better condition to be able to take care of our responsibilities. When we have joy like that, I notice that it's very easy for me to do things. I live in a monastery, and actually we do a lot of things. The monks and nuns in the Plum Village tradition. And if I think about all the things that I'm asked to do, if I think about the retreats that I'm going to lead this year, if I think about the situation of COVID, if I think about the invasion of the Ukraine, I know those things are going on. Those things are very important. But I know that from experience, you have to take it on faith, but I know from experience that I won't be able to really offer anything of help in those situations if I'm not able to let go of my worry and my fear, my anxiety, by coming back to my breathing, coming back to my body, taking care of what's going on in this body and mind in the present moment. If I'm not able to do that, I know I won't. If I'm in a situation that's difficult, where I can do something that can help, not just reading or the news, but actually offering something of help. If I don't take care of myself, I know I will just be overwhelmed and of really no help at all, and hardly able to take care of myself. So it's so important that we see that this engaged nature of mindfulness practice. Mindfulness is not cutting ourselves off from what is the real suffering that is going on in the world. It is building our capacity to take care of our body and mind, so that when we are in a situation and we can help to reduce suffering, we have the capacity to do it. We know what to do and what not to do. I often said that. But when we are overwhelmed with despair, with fear and anxiety, we don't know. We don't know what to do, and eventually we will be depending on others for their insight and their mindfulness. So the basis of being a happy teacher is learning how to develop our own insight. And Thay said that one of the most important insights we can realize is that we have a body. When we use our computer, when we are doom scrolling on the news or whatever, we can forget entirely that we have a body. Even that body is crying out, it's telling us, please, go for a walk. Put your hand on a tree. Enjoy your breathing. but we don't listen because we think there's things far more important that we need to be doing with our time. We need to be grading, we need to be uh, cooking, we need to be cleaning the house, we need to be finding out how to advance our career. I read recently that a large study that was done in the US military, and they found that people who self-describe and others describe them as having an optimistic outlook, they tend to advance much higher in their career. This is very, very stark kind of evaluation of a few hundred military. They did, I think, a number of psychology tests, and so somehow it seemed like if we let go of that's not our object, is try to advance in our career, but if we are able to let go of our worries, our anxiety, and generate joy in the present moment, well, somehow everything we need becomes available. And we may work to advance our career, we may work to do, have these objectives and not get very far because we are destroying our body and mind in doing that. And it really can destroy our body and mind. It sounds a bit strong, but I think we all recognize that we can get in a space where we are working so hard that we're not taking care of, and we're really destroying our body and our mind. So this basic practice of mindful breathing and listening to the bell is fundamental if we want to learn to take care of our body. We can use other objects of mindfulness. So we've used the breath, we've used listening to the bell, being aware of our body. Eating is a wonderful way to come back to the present moment. I notice when I eat, the flavors can be so wonderful that they quickly stimulate memories. And then that memory then leads to another thought, and then another thought, and then some project that I'm working on. And so even though I'm eating the food that's on my fork and it's in my mouth, I'm not really present for the food. I've already, from the first taste, I've already gone light years away in my mind. And I'm chewing my food, but I'm thinking about my projects. And so I'm having a pleasurable sensation from the food, but I'm attributing it, I'm like crossing wires in my brain and attributing it to whatever thought I might be having at that moment while I'm eating. And so if I'm eating good food, I'm like, yeah, wow, that's a really great idea. And I can do this and I can do that. But actually the pleasant feeling is coming from the food. So mindfulness is practicing to do one thing at a time. So when we eat our food, we practice just to eat our food. Not to think about the future, our projects, but to make our project the eating that's going on in the present moment. So when we're sitting, we can make our project being aware of the breath, being aware of our body. When we're eating, we make our project. Also, we can be aware of our breath from time to time. We can be aware of the food that we're chewing. We can look at the food, see the colors. We can be aware of the fragrance. We can get in touch with those who prepared the food. Maybe somebody there with us. Maybe we've prepared it before the retreat or right then. We know that people have brought this food. It hasn't just come off of a tree like it is. It's been prepared for us in many ways. And we've only provided the last conditions to be able to eat it. So we can practice watering the seeds of gratitude for the food. These are all just fun ways to kind of play with how you can say playing with our food, but it's really playing in a way of discovery, of discovering new aspects of our living, our being that we haven't seen before. Like if we have a tomato in our salad, we can look at that tomato and the redness of the tomato and see the sun in the redness. We can see the carbon dioxide from the air. We can see the seed that gave rise to the plant, the tomato vine. We can see all the farmers who have selected the good seeds, the tasty seeds, generation after generation, all the love and care that's there in that seed. If we ate tomatoes like they were in the wild, 10,000 years ago, they wouldn't taste so sweet and delicious as the tomatoes are now. And that's thanks to many generations, hundreds of generations of our ancestors caring for the tomato plant. So this is a process of playing with the food to discover all these interesting things. And when we eat it, it's like a beautiful reunion. We can touch the interbeing nature of the food. When we eat it, just like the breathing, we perceive it is outside of our body, and then we put it in our mouth, we chew, and it breaks down with our saliva and goes into our stomach and is digested with the stomach acids, becomes part of our body. So it's like we are made of the sun and the earth and the rain, as well as our ancestors. And the tomato is also made of the sun and the air and the soil and its ancestors. And so when we eat the tomato, it's a wonderful reunion. We don't see it as something separate from ourselves. It's already part of us. So it's, even though we see it as outside, it's already inside. It's already is with our very body. And this it's just a wonderful reunion taking place. These are the kinds of insights we can get when we learn mindfulness of eating. And I really I really invite you to do this kind of playing. Just like the children, we all know as teachers that playing is a form of learning. So you don't have to follow it exactly like I've said. This is just I take every experience of eating, every experience of breathing, like it's fresh and new. We say it's beginner's mind. Even if I'm practicing for 20 years or 30 years, I can learn new things when I'm aware of my breath, new sensations, new ways in which being aware of my breath cultivates solidity and peace in my body and my mind. So I try to keep that childlike playfulness always present, and not get too caught in just doing it like a certain way. Mindfulness is not about regimentation, right? It's discipline, right? We cultivate concentration. But we also recognize when we are not concentrated. That's a kind of mindfulness of distraction. And we notice how we feel when we're distracted, how the effect of our body in the long run. I notice when I spend a lot of time reading the news or getting caught up in email or whatever it might be, and I forget my body, my mind can be very distracted. And I notice when I go out and I walk in the mountain here, I'm at Deer Park Monastery in California. It's a beautiful mountain with paths everywhere. I feel a bit dazed. I feel, oh gosh. And I need to take a moment to come back to my breathing, come back to my body, and maybe many minutes of reestablishing a kind of concentration. Concentration is not like furrowing your brow and trying to do something really intensely. In meditation, concentration just means maintaining consistently over time. So with the breathing, it's kind of like my finger is the breath, and this finger is my mindfulness, my awareness. And concentration means that I keep awareness of my breathing during the whole time of the in-breath. And then the same with the out-breath. I'm aware of the out-breath for the whole time. And then sometimes we start thinking. And then that leads to another thought, and we're up in the stars. So you need to practice stopping. You stop means to stop getting carried away by our thinking. That's the power of concentration. When we develop our concentration, then we don't get angry. We don't judge ourselves because we lost our attention on our breathing, but we just smile and say, I'm practicing mindfulness of breathing. So we bring our attention back with gentleness to the out breath. That's taking care. That's a non-violent approach to meditation. We don't try to oppress our mind and force it to do something that it's not ready to do yet. We know that if we push, it's like the mind can be like a spring. If we have a big spring and like a metal spring and you push it, we know that as soon as you let go, it will just bounce back. So if we are too pushy with our own mind and we chastise ourselves, I notice that afterwards in a moment we can create a lot of energy and force our mind to do something, but pretty soon afterwards it just bounces back. And then we go out and we do something that is hurtful for ourselves or for others. So I've learned that over time, that this kind of non-violent, gentle approach, but with consistency, with community, with the supportive community around us, is much more effective in actually changing our habit energy and cultivating mindfulness and concentration. So we talk about 3 kinds of energies that are fundamental to the practice. There's mindfulness. We start with mindfulness of the breath. We continue with mindfulness of the body, and then mindfulness of our feelings, like the feeling of joy. And then concentration, which is maintaining mindfulness over time. Yeah, so we create consistency. We know when we are distracted, we get carried away with something, that we just can gently bring our attention back. And when we do it over and over again, our concentration becomes very solid. We're not easily distracted. And then with mindfulness and concentration, we get insight, which is like the insight that I'm alive. I'm breathing. That's an insight. I have a body. And these insights lead to joy. So we can say that the joy is born from the insight. We reestablish our freedom from the prison of our thinking. Thinking is not negative. Thinking can be very helpful. It's just that most of our thinking is not necessary, and it's just not very helpful. So meditation helps us by establishing our awareness in the body and the breathing, to be able to become free from that prison of constant thinking and planning, so that we can look at the world with fresh eyes in every moment. Most of the time, our suffering comes from just not recognizing the conditions that are already there in the present moments, within us and around us. Because we're so caught in our plan, we don't see the people suffering around us. We don't even see our own suffering, how there's stress and anxiety in our own body. And so we will also, in this retreat, look into the ways in which we nourish our body and mind that can lead to stress and anxiety, or that can lead to ease, joy, freedom. So we're aware that we're not together in the practice center, and so over these past few years we've had a few good ideas coming from participants, as well as from teachers and monastics, about how to really practice in an effective way online. And one is to let our loved ones, those that we're sharing the space with, that we're in right now, that we'll be in during this retreat, letting our others know that we're doing this retreat. It's very important to have clear communication, because we'll be behaving a bit differently, right? We're really learning to cultivate mindfulness. So it's helpful to just to clearly communicate with those who are with us in the space so they can support us. Otherwise, we're kind of hiding away, and then it seems like they don't know what we're doing. So it's very helpful to take some time, maybe this evening if you haven't already, to just communicate with those around us. Okay, tonight, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I will be on this retreat, and it's really a full-time retreat. It's not just the events that we see on Zoom. We're invited to practice mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of our body, continuously throughout the weekend. So when we're using the bathroom, when we're having a meal, when we're talking with our loved one, our children, our spouse, our parents, our friends, we bring mindfulness to that conversation. So I really encourage you to do that. 24/7 practice helps to establish deeply this new good habit of mindfulness. And so that's one thing, is to communicate clearly. Another thing is to really create a beautiful space. And I see some of you have already done that. I see flowers. I see maybe it's nice to have a little table with something that is precious to us on there. Maybe a person, photo of somebody who's very dear to us. Could be a spiritual teacher, or Thay, our teacher. It could be a loved one that's passed away. It could be our children. Anything that brings freshness to us and that is very sacred. Someone who brings a lot of care to our mind. We can put them on that table, like a little altar. Or it could just be a Buddha statue or some other kind of statue, or just some flowers that help us to come back to our freshness. And it's nice to be able to look at it from time to time, because otherwise we spend a lot of time on the screen. And I notice that if I'm too much on the screen, then my shoulders can become tense, and maybe I start clenching my jaw. And so it's nice to have something fresh and alive, like a living plant or flowers or something beautiful that we can just turn to. It might be a view out the window to a beautiful landscape, so that we can just refresh ourselves from time to time. We don't have to spend all the time just looking at the screen. So that's all part of preparing the space. Also having a cushion to sit on, or a chair that's comfortable, where we can really, not maybe be like leaning back in the couch, too, because we can easily get kind of drowsy. It's nice to sit up straight, but be relaxed. So it's not like rigid. So that's all in kind of preparing the space. And we also found that it's helpful for most people to use a kind of laptop or something more kind of proper, rather than trying to follow on the phone, because we also have a chance to see everybody in a kind of gallery view, so you have more of a sense of the collective. But also sometimes it's just a bit more stable than using a phone. We have certain habit energies around using smartphones, and that can tend to distraction. And if you feel inspired, it's lovely to turn your video on so we can see everybody. Just like as if we were in a retreat, here at the monastery, we would be able to see everyone. So we don't want to force anyone, but it's very lovely if we're willing to do that. It helps, I think, maintain our mindfulness as well, if we have the video on. And I'm aware that in a few minutes we'll begin the Dhamma talk with Thay Phap. So I want to give us a couple of minutes of break, but this is kind of just a taste. We started a little bit late, so I tried to cover many bases. There are other things like practicing noble silence in the evening, which is very helpful. It means we try not to talk too much or get caught using our devices or reading but to practice total relaxation, just letting go of our thinking and relaxing our body in the evening before we go to sleep. And we also will get more instruction around circle sharing, listening to the Dhamma talk. But I want to respect the time. And I just want to share as well that we will have, I think Richard maybe correct me, but we'll have 2 workshops, and those are happening tonight, or are they happening tomorrow?
They're happening tonight.
They're happening, so after the Dhamma talk.
They're happening after the circle sharing.
After the circle sharing. Okay. So, and Richard will be leading one. So there will be 2 wonderful workshops, I believe. One is Mary Velkin, is that right? And one is Richard Brady, who's right here with us, who just spoke. And they're both teachers who've brought Plum Village practice into their school. I think Richard at the secondary school level, and I think Mary is at the elementary school. Is that right? Yeah. So that will be available after the circle sharing, and so you can choose. They'll be happening simultaneously, and I think we'll try to record them, so you'll be able to watch them both. But just to be aware that there'll be 2 workshops happening simultaneously, and we'll do our best to send out the links for those workshops at that time. So thank you for listening, and we'll finish with maybe one sound of the bell, and then I think I think we will stay on the same link. Is that right? For the Dhamma talk with Thay Phap Yung? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure we're using this link. So I think Phap Yung will appear, and I will practice listening, and he will begin the Dhamma talk. Okay. We can just come back to our body, come back to our breath, and enjoy one sound of the bell.